So now we're going to talk about vectors in 3 dimensions. But before we get there, I just want to talk about the idea of even graphing in 3D. It gets a little weird. So first, I just want to graph a point. So let me take the point 3, 4, 2. Okay, now I just made this up, and all I'm going to do is graph this point. So notice here, my x is coming out towards me. That's the idea. It's actually coming out of the paper. The y is running left and right, and the z is up and down. So that's kind of how we think of these. So then the positive x-axis is going to be on this side. The positive y is going to be over here, and then the positive z is going to be up. So that's kind of how we're going to deal with these axes. Now I know if you've dealt with 3 dimensions before in physics, they switch them around a little bit. So just kind of keep that in mind. For this class, our x is going to be coming out towards us. Okay. All right. So anyways, so now let's just graph this point. So that simply means that this first component's my x, the second one's my y, and the third one is my z. So the first thing I kind of want to point out to you before I graph this point is the octants. So now if you think about this, I can kind of draw a picture here. I'm just going to draw it in there really quick. So this here would be the first octant. Now again, it's coming out at me here. So that's kind of the idea here. It would be in there. That would be that first octant. And then the second octant's going to be behind it. It's going to be over here. So that looks like this. That would be the second octant back there. Now the third octant is going to come around this way. So it's going to be up here. And that looks like. And there's the third octant. And then the fourth octant is going to be up here in the front. And that looks like. And there's the fourth. Now the fifth is just going to be below the first. And I'll show you where that's at. And there's the fifth. And the sixth is going to be behind that one. So the sixth is going to be back there. And the seventh is going to be over on this side. That's the seventh back there. And then the eighth is going to be right in front of that. And there's the eighth. So the idea, and this is how I kind of remember what's going on when I'm dealing with these octants, is it just kind of does like a spiral, or it goes around, then it goes down towards the bottom and does all the bottom ones and ends there. That's kind of how I think of it. So anyways, let's graph our point now. So to graph our point, our x, y, and z are all positive. So this simply means I'm going to go 3 in the x direction. So 1, 2, 3. And then my next one says 4 in the y direction. That's what my second component means. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try to draw a little box here. And that's going to be my x up 3 and my y over 4. And that's going to be at this position here. So now I need to do my z component, and that means I go up 2. So if you think about up 2 on the z, that would be here. Now essentially, I'm just going to kind of create a box for this so you can actually see where this is coming from. Now if you notice on my edges, I went up 2 here and I went up 2 here also. So again, I'm just going to kind of fill that in now. So if I run back this way, notice that's up 2 as well. So I'm just creating this box. Now I'm just going to make it a solid line. I thought about just doing dotted, but no, I'm going to make it a solid so you can see exactly where I'm going with this thing. So there's our box. Now keep in mind here, to graph this point is going to be right here on this corner. Because now think about what I did. I went up 3 on the x, over 4 on the y, and then from here, that space there, I'm going up 2. So that's going to put me right here at this point. So now I'm just going to get rid of all this business so you can see exactly that point. So there it is. Again, I can't really tell exactly where that's at, but that's by just looking at it here. The box would have to be created in order for me to actually see where that's coming from. Now what we're going to do is we're going to graph vectors in 3D and all these other things. So that's where it gets a little bit more interesting, especially when I start talking about magnitudes and whatnot. So there's our point. So now let's graph one more point. Now I should have drew that one in red, so I think I'll fix it so we get a nice red point. So now let's take this point, -2, -3, +4. So now instead of going forward on the x, I'm going to go backwards here. So it's going to be my -x. So there's -2 there. And then it says -3 on the y, so that's going to be going in the other direction now. So there's my -3. And I draw my little box here to kind of represent where my point's going to be. And then my z actually goes up 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's going to take a second for me to kind of draw that. So there's the point, the blue point there. So you kind of see how you kind of have to set these up using boxes if you're going to graph these by hand. Now don't worry, we're not going to do many of these this way, but I kind of wanted you to get the feel of kind of what's going on graphing three-dimensionally, and points are probably the easiest to do. Lines would probably be impossible for us to graph three-dimensionally. Vectors are difficult as well. Now again, if this was a vector, I could easily make this a vector and call it -2, -3, and 4 there, and just put the pointy brackets on it. And then all I would have to do is draw a line from the center out to that point. And now that would be a vector. So it's not much more for us to graph vectors this way. Now again, would your picture look that great? No, probably not. And it doesn't really matter here if I didn't have those lines of perspective here. It would be hard for me for anyone to see that this was graphed somewhat correctly. So that's the idea here. So to turn these into vectors isn't really much more work once I get that. Now there's one more idea I want to talk about before I finish this video. Now I want to talk about the coordinate planes. So now if I had drew a plane intersecting my x and z, so that would be my xz plane. That would be my yz plane. And that would be my xy plane. So you kind of see all three coordinate planes now too. So we'll be dealing with those quite a bit also in this section. All those coordinate planes. So those coordinate planes are the xy plane, xz plane, and yz plane.